So it's August 2003. I'm a freshman coming to the big city, or for me, what is the big city? You see, I'm from a really small town, the kind of town where if you like somebody, you have to go to grandma's house to make sure that the cousin tree doesn't cross. You know what I'm talking about? And college is this new experience for me, but unlike most incoming freshmen, I knew exactly what I was going to do when I grew up. It's going to be in television. Fast forward about 9 months, that didn't work out. I realized I wanted to tell the story more than be the story. So I was going to switch to film. It's going to be a documentary filmmaker. 9 months forward, that didn't work out either. You're picking up a trend, right? So now I've decided I love people. I love to work with people. I'm going to be a teacher. But what am I going to teach? I wasn't that good at math. Wasn't much of a reader. History was okay. But I've been playing music my whole life. I'll be a music teacher. So I decided to go into music ed. Now, I realized I was not a music ed person when a 6-year-old kid who was holding a guitar and couldn't play like a G chord, as I was about to yell at a kindergartner, I realized maybe this wasn't quite for me. You ever do the thing where you have a hobby and you try to make it your job and it just doesn't work out? That was me. So now I'm about 2.5 years into this whole college experience thing, and I have absolutely no idea what it is I'm supposed to do. I do know that I'm no closer to graduating than I was when I started. Now, I have a phenomenal support system. I have great parents, and they were going to support me no matter what I did. But they said, hey, listen, if you're going to stay at your university, you need to support yourself. So I had some friends, and they said, hey, there's a local outdoor ed center just down the road, and they're always looking for people, like outdoorsy people, to go work. You should go there. So at the age of 20, I became a professional camp counselor. And I realized at that moment it is exactly what it is I was supposed to be doing with my life. You see, I would see kids come, and I would watch them excel in ways that I don't even think that they thought were possible. I saw the quiet kid make it to the top of the rock wall. I saw the drama kid shine because on skit night, this was their place. And I realized at that moment I was going to be an outdoor rec major. That's a fun conversation. Hey, mom and dad, I'm going to be an outdoor rec major, and explaining what it is that actually is. So what is an outdoor rec major? Well, my job is to get people outside. Because I started to think about my own childhood, right? And I was an outdoor kid. Now, this is very important. In my backyard, there was a body of water. It was not a creek. Dawson had a creek. Brian had a crick, okay? So Brian's crick, we could have had our own TV show, because every weekend the neighborhood kids would come over. We would put on our boots, and the biggest decision we would have to make is, are we going to go left? Are we going to go right? We would make forts. We would fight. We would pack up all of our stuff for a sleepover only to get scared at about midnight. Mom would always leave like the door open just in case. I realized that the outdoors helped make me who I was. I was that kid that went out and played, and I can tell you for a fact that my mom has a 1-mile yelling radius, because that's how she would call us in. She would walk onto our back deck and say, Brian! And we would just stop and turn around. So looking back, the outdoors was this pivotal piece. It made me who I am. For lack of a better term, it was essential. Now, I want you to think about that word, essential. Like from a physiological perspective, essential might mean food, water, shelter. From an education standpoint, we might say reading, writing, arithmetic, right? Now, I want you to think about March of 2020, and I want you to think about that word. How we defined essential in that moment completely changed. Things that we thought were important weren't. Businesses closed. The stock market just, stopped. But the grocery store stayed open, and so did the outdoors. And in the time when we were cooped up in our little pods inside, the outdoors helped us reconnect to the world. Oftentimes, as we emerged from that pandemic, we did so in our backyards. Our neighbors would come over, we would all sit 6 feet apart and have conversations with people outside of our bubble. I remember that year, Thanksgiving, people would come over and have Thanksgiving in their garage, and they would open up the garage door. the outdoors helped us. It was essential. And so I really believe that we need to remember that. As we leave the pandemic, hopefully, in the rearview mirror, let's not forget that the outdoors was there for us. It was essential, and we need to treat it that way. I firmly think that the outdoors can solve a lot of society's problems. Now, that's a big statement. How do we tackle all of society's problems? Well, let's start with health. First, what is health, right? The definition of health has changed over the years. You used to be healthy if you weren't sick. But now we all know that health is this all-encompassing term. Obviously, we understand physical health, but mental health, social health, well-being, all of those things. I'm here to tell you that outdoor experiences can help every aspect of our health. So let's take it to the science, specifically the Journal of Science. There was a research study that took place over 10 years where they took patients recovering from the same surgery and they split them into two groups during their recovery. Half of the group went into a very traditional hospital room. The other half went into the same room, except there was a window, a view into the outdoors. The patients assigned to the room with the view had less nurse complaints, required less medication during their recovery, and even left the hospital sooner. Just by seeing the outdoors, our body had a reaction. So you've listened to a lot of amazing talks today, right? And kudos to you, because it takes a lot of work to pay attention, right? And in fact, in the attention restoration theory, they actually say this requires what they call direct attention. Every time you listen, every time you write a paper, you talk, everything you do requires direct attention. And what they kind of say is that direct attention, we only have a set capacity, like this water bottle. And everything we do, listening to me, writing a paper, having a conversation, depletes it. That was totally a stage, just so I could take a drink in the middle of this. But eventually, this is going to be empty. And what attention restoration theory says is the outdoors provides an optimal environment to literally fill up our cup by what they call soft fascination. You ever just walked outside and zoned out? Listened to the trees, the wind? You ever stared at a campfire and just completely zoned out? That's soft fascination, and that's actually your body filling up your cup. So that next time you're writing a paper and you're just done, get up, go for a walk. The outdoors is part of who we are. If you look at the timeline of us as people, right? You have caveman and then cave Brian, for lack of a better term, right? If this is the span, we have spent about this much of that time outside. We as a species have only been inside for a very, very, very short amount of time. And in the biophilia hypothesis, they actually say we are genetically drawn to the outdoors. Think about your computer screen. Think about the wallpaper on your computer screen. Raise your hand if your wallpaper is some beautiful vista of some outdoor view. Yeah. We are attracted to the outdoors. It's who we are. All right, so we've obviously fixed all the health problems, right? Cool. Now, probably the biggest issue facing our society today. How do I adult? You know, we always hear like, I wish they would have taught me how to do taxes. Now, I don't know if I'm quite here to tell you that outdoor experiences will help you do taxes. But what I'm saying is that outdoor experiences might help us develop the problem-solving skills that help us eventually tackle our taxes, right? So when people ask me, as a college educator, what's your teaching philosophy? I say that in my core, I am an experiential educator. I am a facilitator. My job is to provide and create an experience and let you learn from it, right? So let's put it in a different term. Raise your hand if you have burned your hand on a stove. Yeah, that's most of you. Okay, now keep your hand up. Keep it up. Now keep your hand up if you burned your hand on that stove after someone probably told you, hey, that stove is hot, don't touch it. Okay, put your hands down. Think about that. We can tell you lessons, don't touch the stove is hot, but you have an experience where you touch the stove. And your body and brain goes through this whole thing. You have an experience and you reflect on it and you realize, wow, stove is hot, I'll burn myself. Not gonna touch that again. And so through outdoor experiences, we can do that same thing. Now I'm gonna give you a mantra and I want you to repeat after me. Are you ready? Kids these days. Yeah. Well, kids these days with their vertical screens, yeah, and their ticky Facebook, Snapchatty thing, right? They're lazy, they don't listen, right? So there was an educational philosopher, his name was Hahn, and he started to look around, and he said, so there's some stuff going on with kids, I'm gonna write this down. And he came up with what he called the declines of modern youth, all right? And it's the decline of fitness, of initiative, skill and craft, and the one that sticks to me most, the decline of compassion due to the unseemly haste in which our modern world is conducted. Pretty true, right? Now, I think it's important to note that Hahn came up with these almost 100 years ago. So the problems of the youth are not the youth of today. This is problems that we've had forever. And so what Hahn did is he partnered with a person named Marina Ewald, and they realized we need to create experiences to address these things. Compassion, skill, care. These are things that need to be practiced, just like we practice our math, just like we practice our reading. And so what they did is they actually created an outdoor school and used outdoor experiences to teach these things. This was actually happening. Hahn was a German Jew, and he literally saw the rise of the Nazi Party and was using outdoor experiences to fight fascism. That's cool. So, with all that being said, we're coming now to a modern time, and Richard Louv wrote a book, and it was titled No Child Left in the Woods. And he coined a term called nature deficit disorder. And basically what they say in the book is that, listen, we're not having outdoor experiences, and it's affecting us. It's affecting our attitudes, our health, and our behavior. Now, when I talk about outdoor experiences now, I don't mean Little League. I don't mean organized sports. I don't mean organized play. I mean that unstructured stuff that we all talk about and know about. You know, the classic line of, I was the kid that stayed outside until the streetlights came on. When I was exploring my crick, remember, not a creek, crick. That's what we did. I didn't learn about the outdoors. I learned through the outdoors. I learned about compassion. I learned about conflict resolution. I learned about communication. And it was through these experiences I had, I practiced those skills. And I like to think that they've helped me into adulthood. But that's what we need now. So it would be really easy for me to say, TED Talk is over. I think we can all agree outdoors is good. Let's all go outside. Because again, it was essential for me. It worked for me. It should work for all of you. But that's not the case. If I ask you to close your eyes and think about what does an outdoor person look like to you, what comes to mind? Me. Right? White, male, we probably have a beard. We're either wearing a puffy coat or a vest, right? I can sit here and say, oh, the outdoors is great. Look what it did for me. I had my own crick. That's not the case for some of you. The outdoors is different for me than it is for a lot of you. Because the outdoors is different based on your race, your ethnicity, your gender, your sexual orientation, or your socioeconomic status. So what I'm saying is if we can all agree that the outdoors are indeed essential, we need to treat the outdoors as essential. So in the same way that we are addressing barriers with food insecurities and other things like that, we need to make access to green spaces essential. There's a whole section of the social justice movement called environmental justice. Do you have a local green space? Is it safe? It's easy to say, oh, all of the local state parks are free, everyone should go. Is there public transportation to them? Do they have the gear necessary to go do the thing? Do they have someone that they trust willing to show them how to do the thing? So what I'm saying here is that great, outdoors is great. You should go. You should take your family. You should take your friends. But more importantly, see who's not going and help them get out there. Because I really think the outdoors are the cure to a lot of our problems. Thanks, everybody.